The wind cut through the San Pedro Valley like a blade, carrying snow where snow should never fall. Isaac Boone rode through the gray light, his heart as empty as the frozen ground, searching for nothing. Then he saw them, two figures huddled against a rock, their dark hair dusted white, their hands clasped together. He dismounted, his legs stiff with cold, and knelt beside the women. One was older, her face gaunt, her breathing shallow. The younger lay against her, barely conscious. He wrapped them in his own coat, lifted them onto his horse, and turned toward home without a thought for the danger. The cabin was small, but the fire was hot, and he worked through the night warming them, feeding them broth, whispering words he had not spoken since his wife died. By dawn, the younger sister's eyes fluttered open, and she looked at him with fear. He stepped back, gave her space, showed her his empty hands. "You're safe," he said, his voice rough. She studied him, then turned to her sister, still unconscious. Isaac brought more blankets, more wood, and sat by the window, watching the snow bury the valley. The days passed, and the elder sister's fever broke. Her name was Nalin, the younger was Sihu. They were Chiricahua, fleeing raiders who had destroyed their village. Isaac asked no more. He knew what it was to lose everything. Sihu grew strong first, curious, following him around the cabin, asking questions in halting English. He found himself teaching her to mend a fence, to track deer, to laugh again. The sound filled the hollow spaces he had closed off for years. Nalin watched him with quiet eyes, measuring, remembering. One evening, as he tended the fire, she spoke his name. "Isaac," he turned, startled. "How do you know my name?" She hesitated, then whispered a name he had not heard in 5 years. "Tala." His hands fell to his sides. Tala, his wife, taken by the same raiders who had killed their daughter. "She was my cousin," Nalin said softly. "She spoke of you before we were separated. She said you were a good man. She wanted you to know she did not suffer." The words struck him like a physical blow. He sank into the chair, his face buried in his hands. Nalin moved beside him, her hand on his shoulder, saying nothing. For the first time in 5 years, he let himself grieve. The winter deepened, and so did the bond between them. Sihu treated Isaac like a brother, teasing him, challenging him. But with Nalin, there was a quiet understanding, a shared pain that needed no words. He found himself watching her when she did not know. One night, a rider came, a man with a scarred face and a rifle across his saddle. He was one of the raiders, tracking the sisters. Isaac met him at the gate, his own rifle steady. "There's no one here but me," he said. The man smiled, cold. "I saw their tracks." Isaac did not flinch. "You saw wrong." The man's hand moved toward his gun, and Isaac fired first. The raider fell, but others would come. Nalin appeared at his side, her face pale. "They will return with more men." Isaac nodded. "Then we will be ready." He taught Nalin to shoot, to fight, to move through the canyon like a ghost. She taught him patience, the language of her people, the songs Tala had loved. Their hands brushed, their eyes met, and something that had been buried began to stir. The raiders came at dawn, 6 of them, riding hard. Isaac and the sisters took positions in the rocks, their fire steady. Sihu fought with a courage that surprised them both, and Nalin stood beside Isaac as if they had always been partners. When the smoke cleared, 4 raiders lay dead. 2 had fled. Isaac's arm was bleeding, but he barely felt it. Nalin wrapped his wound with strips of her own dress, her fingers gentle, her face close to his. He caught her hand and held it. That night, they sat by the fire, the cabin quiet, Sihu asleep. Nalin looked at him, her eyes bright with unshed tears. "Tala would want you to be happy," she said. He shook his head. "I didn't think I could be." She leaned into him, and he held her. Spring came, and with it, news that the raiders had been captured by the army. The sisters were free to return to their people, but Sihu looked at the cabin, at the garden they had planted together, and shook her head. "This is home," she said. Isaac stood with Nalin at the edge of the meadow, watching the sun rise over the valley. She turned to him, her hand in his. "I never thought I would find a place again," she said. He smiled, the first real smile in years. "Neither did I." They were married in the autumn, with Saihu standing as witness and the mountains as their cathedral. He wore the shirt Nalin had sewn for him. She wore Tala's necklace, a gift from her cousin's memory. They spoke vows in 2 languages, binding their futures together. Years later, when people asked how the quiet rancher had found love again, he would look at Nalin and smile. "I found 2 sisters in the snow," he would say, "and one of them gave me back my heart." They lived out their days in the San Pedro Valley, their children running through the grass where their mothers had once nearly died, a family built from loss, courage, and the courage to love again.